Good evening, you guys. Good evening. Welcome back to another episode of Sisters in Collaboration with myself, Tonia Lewis, as well as Coach Lucretia Shaw. Look, you guys, we got a hot topic tonight. We're going to be talking about the emotional hangover to being too much for people, right? Anybody ever felt like that? Look, you guys. Once again, my name is Tonia Lewis. I am the CEO of TNL Customer and Strategic Solution. I'm just getting the formalities out the way, right? But I'm also just like you. I'm juggling life, leadership. I'm juggling family, and I'm trying to show up fully every single day, even when it don't feel like people can handle all of me, right? And so today, me and Coach Lucretia, we're just going to be talking. We're just going to have a real conversation, right? I believe in having real, honest, open, raw conversations, right? There's nothing like a conversation so you can get an understanding, right? So today we're going to be talking about something I know many of us have felt, but a lot of times we don't even talk about it, right? The emotional hangover of being too much for people, or them telling you you're just doing too much, or you think you too much, right? If you've ever left a conversation feeling drained, if you've ever been misunderstood, or for example, your energy after you leave a person, they thought you was, being bigger than what you thought you were, right? This episode is for you. So look, invite people on, right? Share with the sister and brother that needs to hear this conversation. But let me turn it over to Coach Lucretia Shaw. Let her quickly introduce yourself and we'll dive in the conversation.
Yes, I am the founder of Lucretia Kingdom Legacy, of course, operating amongst my gifts and talents under that brand, as far as with professional publishing and writing. Not only that, notary services, and I just wear many hats. Listen, I stand on Philippians 4:13. I can do all things, not
Okay.
some. So whatever I need to do, that's what I'm most definitely gonna do. And this title here is really, when she said emotional hangover, about being able to walk away from a conversation that ever felt drained to you, like she said, or misunderstood. Sometimes it's not because you're wrong, not because you're rude, but because your presence and your passion, your truth felt like too much for somebody, right, Coach?
Right. That's right.
um so just agreeing with Coach Tonya that tonight isn't about blaming anybody. It's about naming the experience so we can stop internalizing what was never ours to carry. So this is a safe space for everybody. This is a real conversation, like she said. And if you ever felt an emotional hangover after being fully yourself, this one is for you. So,
Absolutely.
Coach Tanya, we're gonna talk about, let's define what is an emotional hangover, right? Um,
Right.
when you gave me this topic, I said, emotional hangover. What does that really mean, right? It's actually awareness before healing. Um, an emotional hangover is the residue left behind after a conversation where you showed up honestly, but the space couldn't hold you.
Mhm.
And it's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's quiet and heavy. It kind of shows up after the text thread ends, right? Or maybe
Mhm.
after you drive away, or maybe after the call hangs up, or even after the room empties, right? And
Right.
then suddenly, you're alone with your thoughts, and instead of peace, you feel that pressure. What is your take on that? Because sometimes emotional hangover, Coach Tanya, can sound like, well, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or
Right.
maybe I came off a little wrong, or why do I always do this, or maybe I should have just kept that to myself. Because a lot of times you got people who feel bad for telling the truth. Listen, the truth shall set you free. So a lot of times, we replay conversations on loop.
Mhm.
Not because you're wrong, but because your nervous system is trying to protect you from rejection.
Right.
Sometimes, the mind can start negotiating your authenticity.
Mhm.
Coach, what you think about that? Like, what is your definition of an emotional hangover?
I think an emotional hangover to me is when you find yourself questioning yourself about something that you truly believe in, but because of who is doing the questioning, you find yourself emotionally, you know, restrained when it comes to being who you really want to be, and you find yourself questioning yourself. And I'm gonna just share this little true story that took place with me. There was a season in my life where, you know, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that felt that way. You felt like you've poured everything that you had into people. You've poured everything you've had. You've given everything, right? You've given them all your energy. You've given them your heart. You've given them your time. You've given them everything. And I was the type of person, I've always been a passionate person. Whatever I put my hands on, I want to perfect it, right? I want to make sure that it's going to leave a lasting impact or leave some residue behind to show that I've actually been there and I've done something for that particular person. But because I was so passionate about it, to people, it seemed like I was loud. I was boasting. I was bragging, right? But I've always been loud about my dreams and what I see for myself, what I see for my family, right? And I cared deeply. And because I cared so deeply, people took advantage of it and thought I was thinking that I was too much and I was too much to be around, right? They classified me as being a mean person. A lot of people thinking I'm mean, right? They used to go up to my sister all the time. That's the mean sister right there. But not realize I'm the sweetest person. Well, I'm the sweetest one out of all my sisters, right? Right. But because they didn't get an opportunity to understand or get to know me for themselves, they looked at the outer appearance and just assumed. I'm just a very intentional person, and I don't force myself in conversations. I don't force myself in rooms. I don't force myself around people, right? Because I don't want to get emotionally drained, whipped because of what they feel about who I am as a person. I am very loud. I'm very vocal. I have a strong presence, right? But that's a gift from God. He gave me a strong presence, right? And so every time I showed up fully, I was labeled as too much. And so when you think about the emotional hangover, you're thinking about the questions that you start to replaying in your mind. You start asking yourself the questions. Did I come off too strong? Maybe I was a little too emotional. Did I push them away with the fire that's in me? Then I started realizing, did I really do anything? Or was it actually them that didn't have what they needed in them and they projected what they felt about themselves? They tried to project it on me and classified me as being too much. They just wasn't ready for all of me, right? And then I realized, Krisha, I said, look, I got to free myself. I can't get caught up in their perception or whatever their reality is in regards to who I am as a person. Yes, I am. I am a strong-minded person. I am a very vocal, very, I have a strong demeanor, right? But that's a gift from God that He put in me so that I can walk boldly and proudly in who I am. And I think when you think about that emotional hangover, people get so caught up in what other people think. That's where that validation comes in. You know, I talk about the inner work all the time. It makes people feel like I need somebody to validate who I am as a person. And so you'll start taking on their emotional baggage without realizing that emotional baggage is making you feel bad, but they're still doing the same thing with somebody else, right? So when it came to the emotional aspect of, I had to look, I got to free myself. I can't get caught up in your perception on me because I'm free. I did the inner work. I'm healed. I'm whole, right? I'm in absolute peace. I'm in absolute freedom right now. So what we have to learn when we think about the emotional hangover, right? We have to learn being too much is there's nothing wrong with being too much. It's your authenticity. It's your energy, right? It's your passion. For me, it was my passion. It's your ambition. Those aren't flaws, you guys. Those are not flaws. They're your superpowers. And once you tap into your superpowers, then you can walk boldly and you won't get so emotionally tapped out and drained when people say something that is not who you are. So that's what I think about when you think about emotional hangover, right? You know, I don't question myself when it comes to people anymore. And this may sound facetious, and I'm not trying to be facetious, you guys. This may sound facetious. I could care less what people think about me. I don't care who they are. I really can because I'm so rooted and grounded in my faith. I'm so rooted and grounded in who I am as a person. I know what I represent. I know who God called me to be. I know who God created me to be. So I stand boldly in that. I don't get caught up in what other people feel about me. I don't get caught up and what other people say about me, because that's not doing anything to further the assignment he's placed on my life. You know what I'm saying? I think
Mhm.
our job is to walk boldly and confident in who God created us to be so that we can show up confidently in who we are as people. But when you get so emotionally tapped out or drained, because I'm gonna tell you something, and I'm being honest, people will drain the living hell out of you. Excuse my French. They will drain the living hell out of you. And you'll start getting so caught up in their emotional baggage that you can't find peace and you can't figure out who you are, because
Mhm.
their, you know, abnormality, I'm gonna say it's abnormal. Their way of thinking, is their reality. And so you'll start jumping into their reality and it doesn't suit you. And then
Mhm.
everybody's all discombobulated. Everybody's all over the place because guess what? You done took over their emotional hangover. I'm not drunk in this season. I'm not gonna be drunk in this season. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna be spiritually drunk. I'm not gonna be emotionally drunk. I'm not gonna be physically drunk. I'm not gonna be financially drunk. I'm not going to be drunk in this season. And so what we're saying tonight, look, we don't want you to be walking around with your head hurt. You got a hangover because you
Oh,
worried
I was
about
just about to say that. I didn't mean to
we
intervene in
ain't drunk no more. I'm
that.
not drinking it. I'm not drunk in this season. I'm wide awake, honey. I'm
Right.
sober. I'm sober this season. And that's what we saying when we talking about the emotional hangover. You could be walking spiritually dead and drunk, unfulfilled because you're tapping into somebody else's energy. You're tapping into somebody else's spirit,
Mhm.
right? And you messed yourself up, right? So that's what we're talking about. What's your
And
thoughts,
you
Chris?
and you know what? Just to piggyback on what you just said, it ain't just emotional; it's physical too.
Absolutely.
And sometimes people don't understand why they start. Your shoulders getting heavy, you're having these headaches, you're so fatigued, and then you got a sudden desire to withdraw, isolate. That's your body saying something didn't sit right. But
Mm-hmm.
guess what? But you overrode yourself to be understood. And I'm gonna tell y'all, we're gonna get down to the root of this thing and tell you why it happened, because here's the key truth many people miss, Coach Tanya. The
Mm-hmm.
emotional hangover doesn't come from being too much, right?
Mm-mm.
um it comes from being too real in spaces
That's
that
it.
require masks. See, you got a lot of people that's
Absolutely.
walking around with these masks, right? And some environments only know how to engage on the surface, through politeness, through avoidance, through emotional minimization. So when
Mm-hmm.
you bring honesty, vulnerability, passion, and depth, it disrupts the unspoken
Absolutely.
agreement to not go there, right? And instead of the room adjusting, you do. See,
Mm-hmm.
when you start shrinking, and I'm gonna say this because a lot of times you can shrink in real time. Sometimes the hangover starts during the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can tell when somebody energy shifts. Like, I could see, I notice when energy shifts, and then when you soften your tone in mid sentence, you end up start explaining yourself unnecessarily,
Mm-hmm.
and then sometimes you pull back what you even about to say. That's not intuition. Guess what that called? That's called self abandonment disguised as
Uh-huh.
peacekeeping. And afterwards, the guilt creeps in, right?
That's
Not
right.
because you were wrong, but because you sensed they weren't ready for the fullness that you brought. So I'm gonna
Absolutely.
tell y'all something. This is real big right here, because feeling heavy after a conversation does not mean you overshared, you were
Mm-hmm.
inappropriate, or you were too emotional. It means that you were honest in a space that lacked capacity.
Mm-hmm.
You were open where emotional safety was limited. And then guess what? You were authentic where performance were preferred. And guess what? That weight you feel, it wasn't shame. Guess what it was called? Misalignment.
Misalignment.
So I'm gonna ask y'all, I want y'all to engage and listen. Because I want to ask this question. Has anyone ever left a conversation feeling heavy instead of heard? I know I can attest to that
I
one.
can. I,
I can attest to that. I felt heavy after a conversation, and I'm like these people don't even want to hear me because they talking. But I had to withdraw myself because I'm
right.
like, this is draining.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna say this, y'all. If you felt like that, you wasn't wrong.
Mm.
You weren't too much. Guess what? You
Mm-hmm.
were just in the wrong container. So
Absolutely.
once you understand what an emotional hangover is, You stop trying to fix yourself, and then you start
Mm.
the
Okay.
spaces that can actually hold you, right? So we're gonna transition this thing because we got a lot to talk about in this because we're gonna talk about being too much is not a flaw, it's a calling. Coach Tonya, I'm gonna let you
Absolutely.
start off with this one.
Look, what people don't understand is we always know, and everybody know the scripture. As when we was formed in our mother's womb, he had he already knew who he was. You know what I'm
Mhm,
saying? And I think that you know people have been taught or told to dim their light,
mhm,
and what tends to happen, it's not a reflection of them per se. It's just a reflection of someone else's comfort level when you're dealing with them, right? So when I think about, my calling, what am I called to do? Who am I called to be? Why did he call me to be this way?
mhm,
What was my purpose, right? Because I feel like if he gave it to me, he gave it to me for a reason. But when I started realizing that, guess what? I was taking other people's emotional hangover with my boldness, with my confidence, right? With me being able to, have that conversation or be able to put myself out there, be able to serve in the capacity that I serve in. I quickly found myself, realizing, look, this ain't even about them.
mhm,
Your assignment is not even about them. Your assignment really isn't even about you. It's
mhm,
about the people that you're called to influence, to make an impact on, right? To lead them closer to God. And
mhm,
we talk about God a lot because God is a big part of God is the center of my life, right? He's the center of my business, right? And I
mhm,
think that because people classify you as being too much, it's just the fact that they haven't figured out, or they haven't figured out what their purpose is. They haven't figured out what their calling is. They don't know exactly what their assignment is and who they are assigned to. Because I do believe we're not assigned to everybody.
mm-mm,
We are assigned to certain peoples, in this life, right? And sometimes because we don't understand that, we're and I'm gonna say this, and and please don't take this the wrong way, anybody, right? I don't be sounding facetious, but I'm a real. I like to talk. I like to talk real.
mhm,
Sometimes, you can find people that will stay connected to you, trying to tap into your calling and mimic who you are called to be. And so that's the reason they are frustrated, because they assume that, guess what? I can do it like she can do it. I can do it better than she can do it. I can do that. Why they feel like that about her when she says that? Why do they gravitate to her? Right? A lot of people trying to mimic other people's calling without actually taking time to understand or ask
mhm.
for understanding, right? On what their assignment and their calling is. And that
Right.
becomes an emotional hangover, because now
Mhm,
you jumped into my feelings, trying to feel how I feel. You trying to show up like I show up. You trying to act like I act. You trying to talk like I talk. You trying to serve the way I serve. You trying to write like I write. You trying to read like I read. You trying to level up yourself like I level up myself. You trying to be everything but being who you are. And that's the reason people can't grow. That's the
mhm,
reason people can't tap into their full God-given talent or their gift, because they're too fixated on what other people are trying to do, instead of asking God, God, what is it for me to do? And
exactly.
sometimes take a step back, right?
Mhm,
Get silent. Just deal with you for right now,
mhm.
and then figure out what God has called you to do. And sometimes
Right.
it's going to, because you can't hear a voice if you got so many voices in your ear. That's an emotional hangover, because you're listening to
I'm
some
telling you
people
to.
got too many voices in their ear. Too many.
Mm,
I have people coming to me all the time asking me my opinion or my thought, and I tell people all the time. I say, I'm very, but if you don't want a true answer, don't ask me for my opinion. But if you
right.
come and ask me for my opinion, I'm gonna give it to you. But I'm not gonna insert myself in what you got going on. But if you ask me, I'm gonna give you my opinion. And some
Right.
people got too many people in their ear, so they can't figure out why they going west when they should be going east. God told them to go north and they going south because you got too many people that are already drunk emotionally, spiritually, physically, so they can't tell you anything, and you trying to mimic people that are not stable. They still on life support, and you trying to be, and you become on life support because you're attaching your emotions with that. That's spiritual. You get what I'm saying? So now your spirit are tapped into their spirit, and now both of y'all walking around discombobulated and confused and frustrated. You see what I'm saying? Because that's an emotional hangover. You've gotten too emotionally attached to something that's not serving you. And believe it or not, coach, everybody is not meant to handle you. Everybody can't handle you. We just got to be, everybody is not ready to handle a you or a me. That is not a bad thing. Some people can only take a smaller, tamer version of you right now, of who you are, right? And
Right.
that's okay. And that's the one thing I want people to understand. It's okay to say, guess what? I'm not ready. I'm still working on me. But a lot of times we trying to be where somebody else has already walked that road. You don't know what road I don't walk. So I may have
Exactly.
already crossed that bridge.
Right.
I may have already been burnt. I may have already been pruned. I may have already been whipped. I may have already been, went through that hard period. So now I'm able to walk across that bridge without looking back. But without people actually knowing the full story, they jumping midways in your story and thinking they supposed to be where you are, and they ain't been through nothing. You see what I'm
It,
saying? So
it
that is
don't work like that.
what I'm saying is okay. It's their limitation. It's not yours, right? It's not your fault. You don't have to streak or apologize for your brilliance, right? And I'm gonna ask this question, and I'm just gonna pose this question to everybody. Are there relationships in your life where you find you have dimmed yourself, you have made yourself, well, I ain't gonna show up dressed up pretty because girl, they may say I think I'm this, or I ain't gonna go over there, or I'm not gonna say this because they may think I'm too much, or I can't be around this person, or I can't talk to this person because they don't like this. You see what I'm saying? That's when you start dimming your light, right? I can talk to anybody. I can have a conversation with anybody. I don't know who don't like each other, or who. I can have a conversation with anybody because I'm an adult. I'm a mature person. You know what I'm saying? I can have a conversation, but everybody can't do that because they're taking on other people's emotional baggage. And so they won't grow. They won't help themselves because they think they're worried about what people are going to say and what people think about their growth. And so, what I'm saying to you guys tonight, look, find your own way,
Right.
find your own path. Ask God to give you clarity and give you understanding on where you're supposed to be at right now. Because my journey is not your journey. Everybody's not supposed to be on the same path. You know what I'm saying? But that doesn't mean we can't coexist and work together, collaborate together, and get along.
That's true. That's true.
Right?
That is so true. That is so true. And that just goes to show what you just really went into depth about being too much. It's not a flaw, it's a calling. Um, and I want to say this clearly without apology. Too much is not a diagnosis either.
Absolutely,
It's a,
girl.
it's a label placed on people who refuse to live half alive. No
Mm-hmm.
one, no one wakes up one day and decides, I want to be too much.
Mm-mm.
Like, what actually happens is this: you choose honesty in a culture that prefers comfort. You choose depth in rooms addicted to surface, but you choose truth where silence has been normalized. And suddenly you become the problem.
Mm.
Look, when someone says you too much, or you think you this, or you think you that, I've had people say, "Oh, she thinks she this or that," or even say she thinks she holy, holy, roly, roly.
Girl, I done heard it, honey.
I said, wait a minute now. Now I don't think on this, like we got the same, like we have the same uh chances to do what needs to be done, but we got choices. I made a choice. And when somebody say you too much, that means your emotional range makes them uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Your clarity exposes what they are avoiding. And then not only that, your confidence confronts insecurity. When you grow, your growth is going to highlight somebody else's stagnation. Okay, even when you're present, it becomes a mirror to people, and not everyone wants to see themselves clearly. Like, for example, I was a mirror to somebody. I know God placed me across that person's path to be a mirror to show them where they were unhealed at, where they were walking in avoidance, where they were walking in insecurity, and when they were walking in toxic patterns to where they didn't understand it, but they didn't want to see themselves. So instead, they try to reduce you, right?
Mm-hmm.
This person tried to reduce me and say, "Oh, you this, you that," and I was saying to myself, "Wait a minute now." And let me say this, y'all: the fire was never the issue. Your passion is not excessive, and your joy is not unknown. Your questions are not attacks. I'm a very logical person, and just like you, Coach Tonya, I'm very
Very
intentional.
critical.
When it comes down to that, and I'm gonna say this: your fire is necessary because it illuminates truth. It burns away what's false.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. It brings warmth to those who are cold, and it demands respect or distance. Fire is never meant to be tamed. It's meant to be contained properly. So I want to
Mm-hmm.
say this to everybody: you were built for depth, not that small talk. Some people are designed for shallow connections,
Mm-hmm.
casual interactions, and surface level exchanging. Listen, I'm not doing that no more. But that's okay. But I'm gonna tell you this: some people, well, to be honest, you were designed for transformation. Okay, to make
Absolutely.
an impact, leadership. When you keep trying to be less so others can be comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
you start suffocating your own assignment.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you shrink yourself to fit in, get what you do? You betraying your intuition, you
Mm-hmm.
silencing your discernment, and you teaching people how to mishandle you.
Absolutely.
Not only that, you disconnecting from God-given authority. And eventually, Coach Tanya, the exhaustion isn't from being too much, it's from constantly editing yourself.
Absolutely.
And I just want to say this from a kingdom perspective. This is a calling, y'all.
It is.
You carry vision, you operate in truth, you walk in authority, you speak with conviction, you disrupt cycles instead of repeating them. See, people who are called to lead, they rarely feel comfortable where conformity is required.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say, y'all, this: Jesus was called too much, right? He was
Mm-hmm.
called too much. He was too bold. They say he was too confrontational. They say he was too loving, too disruptive, and yet he never shrank. But I want to ask y'all this question. I want y'all to reflect on this question. Who told you that you were too much? And
Thank
what
you.
did it cost you to believe them?
Mm-hmm.
See,
That's a
you
good
got to
question.
follow, huh? What you said, coach?
That's a good question.
Yeah, because here's the truth. They weren't identifying your flaw. They were revealing their limit.
Right.
I
Right.
want y'all to say this right here because I even had some declarations for y'all on this because I want to invite the audience to repeat. You can type it, you can say it, or whatever. But
Absolutely.
this is a declaration moment because see, this right here is going to help you gain clarity that you're not too much.
Mm-hmm.
I will no longer apologize for my depth, DEPTH.
Mm-hmm.
I will no longer minimize my voice. I will no longer shrink to be accepted. And get what? I honor the way God made me.
Mm.
So your fullness is not random, it's intentional. And Coach Tanya, once they stop seeing too much, and I'm gonna say this to y'all: once you stop seeing too much as a flaw,
Mm-hmm.
stop chasing validation
Yep.
and you start protecting your energy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we finna talk about: protecting your energy without guilt.
Boundaries.
Yeah. Go ahead, Coach Tanya. I'm gonna let you take the floor on this one. I'm gonna come right behind you.
Girl, you took it out of my mouth. Boundaries.
Mm,
Boundaries. That's one of the things that's going to help you keep from being so emotionally hung over, right? Look,
mm,
just imagine if you were to start shifting your mindset
mm,
from an apologetic mindset to being yourself. Imagine if we was to shift our mind and stop apologizing for just being who we are and accept the fact that we are who we are. Imagine how happier we'll be. Imagine how more advanced and how many people will be walking more boldly in who they are as individuals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boundaries. You got to set boundaries. Look, I tell people all the time, when I said no, no is no to me. I mean, no don't mean I'm gonna think about it. No don't mean okay, maybe one day. Saying no means no. And you have got to mean no when you said no. I'm not gonna lie. I used to say it all the time. Well, I ain't got it. I don't have it. And then I had to
Mm-hmm.
think about that, God. I had to think about it for a while. And I was like, God, now I'm asking you for abundance. I'm asking you for more. And here I am telling people I don't have it when I do have it.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, no, I'm not going to tell nobody that I don't have it. I just
Right.
don't have it for that.
Right.
Right? So we have to be mindful of what we speak, because what we speak, you can speak it into existence, right? The power of life and
Mm-hmm.
death is in your what? In your
Tony.
tongue. So
Mm-hmm.
when you said no, mean no. Saying no is
Mm-hmm.
sometimes necessary, because when you say no, you protect your heart, you start protecting your time, and your focus is not selfish. It's called self-preservation. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of us, we don't take time to preserve ourselves. We just overcompensate for what other people don't have. And
Right.
we start going into depression, because that stuff can make you go into an early depression, mental space. It'll
Mm-hmm.
start tapping into your mental capacity. You'll start, getting depressed, but depressed because of somebody else emotional hangovers or triggers, because
Right.
you done took it on. Well, I don't want them to feel like that way about me. Well, they feel that way about you because they see a light in you that they don't see in themselves. But
Exactly.
instead of them being open and bold and asking, hey, what did you do? What inner work? What therapist? Where did you go? What did you do? What scripture did you read? What did you
Right.
do to do the inner work so that you can stand up proudly and be okay with your flaws? Because all of us have made mistakes in this life. Nobody's a perfect, we're not perfect people, right? But how did you overcome and still be the person that you are? You see what I'm saying? But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people are just too proud. Ego gets in the way,
Yeah.
right? And then when the ego get in the way, you can't set clear boundaries and expectations, because we don't know how to tap into, guess what? Look, I'm not going down that road. But that's where a lot of people get trapped, because they doing it to follow suit. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm just gonna say, you're not being facetious. I always say I'm not being facetious because I don't want people to take it the wrong way. That's how people get caught up in these circles, these
Mm-hmm.
revolving circles that don't go nowhere. They just spinning around in a circle. They're spinning around in a clique that's not growing, that's not evolving, that has no direction, that does not have clarity. And so when you jump out the circle and you see someone else that's moving towards a target, it's confusing to you. You want to tap in, but you don't want to be alone. So you'll jump back into that circle that's giving you what you need. Then
Mm-hmm.
you'll tap back out, because that ain't where I really want to be. I want to do what you're doing. I want to be bold. I don't want to let my mistakes control my life. But because the circle has become so comfortable, I want to jump back into that circle. I want to be around liars. I want to be around cheaters. I want to be around people that's going to hurt me. I want to be around people that don't have any integrity. I want to be around people that don't have no character. I'll
Mm-hmm.
start stealing because they steal. I start cheating because they cheating. I start lying and backbiting and doing all this stuff because I center myself around those emotional triggers that I haven't fully dealt with. And because when I step outside of that circle, it's going to require work. And one of the things that people don't want to do,
They don't want to
they
do
don't
it.
want to do the work. So now you're upset with people that have taken time to do the work, people that have taken time to invest in therapy, people
Yes.
that have taken the time to check themselves, people that are more aware of who they are as a person, people that have tapped into their God-given gift, people that have tapped in and been in the presence of God, and they understand where they're going. And so
Right.
because you can't take them off course, you want to drag them with you.
Mm-mm.
But that's
We
where
ain't
your
doing
boundaries
that.
come in. What
Right.
boundaries are you going to start setting for your life?
That's good.
Because if not, you're going to always be drunk. Your spirit is going to be drunk. Your spirit is going to be confused. Your spirit is going to be tied and tangled up in circles and people. And then it's going to be harder and harder for you to detach yourself from that stuff. And then you wonder, why this happening to me? Why this happening to me? Some of this stuff, and not being facetious, you guys, we just having a real conversation. Some of this stuff is the reason that you're in bondage. Some of this stuff is the reason why you're mentally hostage or captive in your own mind. You can't think your own thoughts without actions about it. Honey, what you think about this? What you think about that? You can't move right or left because now I got to go and ask somebody, who should I be today? Today I got to get up and I got to pretend and put on a mask to be something that I'm not. And that's where you falling apart at. Because you can't set boundaries about, guess what? Today, I'm just going to show up as me. I'm going to show up as me every single day, flawed and all, right? Some days, if you get on my wrong side, I may cuss you out. You know what I'm saying? Let's just be honest. I don't curse, right? But I have the potential to curse. Right. I don't like cursing, but right. I will curse and I can curse. But I choose not to curse. That's a difference. In situations right. where I have to curse people out. So if I know you wronged me, what I'm going to do, I'm going to quietly exit off of the scene to keep from you doing something that my boundaries and my expectations of myself won't allow me to do. It ain't got nothing to do with you. It's because I've set clear expectations and boundaries of how I'm going to conduct myself. It don't take away from the fact that I can't. I can put some words together if I had to, but I choose not to. Right. That's how you set clear boundaries. And saying no means no. I ain't coming. I ain't doing it. I ain't forcing myself nowhere. If it's meant for me to be there, I don't have to find that out about it on the hotline. You know what I'm saying? If it's meant to come to me, or if I'm meant to be a part of it, God will get that person to lay on their heart to tell me, hey, look, you invited to this. You know, I don't show where I'm not invited. That's a pet peeve of mine, right? Mm-hmm. And what I want you guys to think about, you know, what boundaries? When are you gonna set boundaries for yourself? What are your boundaries when it comes to yourself? When it comes to people? When it comes to your emotional well-being? What are your boundaries? What are your boundaries? And what would God say about your boundaries? You know what I'm saying? Those are some questions that you have to ask when it comes to your boundaries. But you got to set clear expectation on how people are going to treat you. And if you don't, you can't get mad with people. You have to get upset with yourself. Because if you don't have any expectations, I say it all the time, you know, in my trainings, there has got to be a level, there's got to be standards. Whatever you expect or whatever you set from the get-go, that's what they're going to follow suit. And so you can't fault anybody but yourself, because those are the standards you set. And boundaries are necessary in this life. Boundaries are necessary. You got to have clear expectations on what people are going to say and do to you. Without boundaries, you're going to be lost.
That's true. That's true. Look, right? Ooh, Lord, Jesus. Listen, you just summed it all up for me, but I want to add something to it.
Add some good.
Coach Tonia, when you talk about that, because for a lot of us, especially women, we were taught to be available, right? To be understanding, to be accommodating, to be nice, even when it costs us, right? So when we finally decide to protect our energy, guilt shows up immediately, right? But here's the truth. Protecting your energy is not selfish. It's called stewardship. Absolutely. See, this is something that God had to teach me in this season, how to set clear boundaries, because God is a God of order, right? Anything that's out of order, anything that's out of alignment, the word, look, my mom be saying discombobulated all the time, but it will have you discombobulated. But I want to say this. You cannot pour endlessly and still remain whole. See,
that's right.
And I'm going to tell you why guilt shows up when you set those boundaries, right? And I had to set them with my children too. And I said, oh, they tried to guilt trip me, right? But let me say this though. Guilt often appears when you've been the emotional safe space for other people. People are used to your constant access. They got access to you. You've overfunctioned in relationships. Your value has been tied to what you provide. So when you say, I need space, I don't have the capacity right now, that don't work for me anymore, it disrupts the old dynamic. See, and the discomfort you feel isn't because the boundary is wrong, it's because the relationship was built on an overextension.
Right.
I want to share an important distinction, and that's going to be between access versus assignment, right? Here's the key. Here's the key. Everyone who has access to you is not assigned to you. That's something that I had to learn the hard way.
Absolutely.
I had to learn it the hard way. Um, some people are seasonal, some people are situational, some people are present for growth, not permanence. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, look at the baby.
Baby.
Now you don't got me all in the baby fever over here. But
Girl, I'm grandma and two, honey.
but look,
Y'all, I'm grandma and
that's
two.
okay. I'm grandma too. We gonna still talk about this thing. But let me say this, y'all. When their season ends, guilt tries to convince you to stay longer than grace allows. But let me say this, grace doesn't require self-abandonment. I'm gonna show you what healthy boundaries actually sound like, because this is, like I said, he had to train me in this. So I'm not just speaking just to be speaking, I'm speaking from experience, because healthy boundaries are quiet and clear. I'm unavailable for that. I need
Absolutely.
rest. I'll tell you in a minute, I'm choosing peace. And guess what? This no longer aligns with me. You don't need no long explanation to tell nobody, or no justification. If someone only understands your boundary after you're exhausted, that's information. So I want to ask the audience out there, who here on this line, watching this live, has ever felt guilty for choosing rest over being available? That guilt is not conviction, it's conditioning.
Absolutely.
When you protect your energy at all costs, guess what you do? You make room for clarity. And
Absolutely.
clarity often leads to release. But I want to share something with you that's going to take me into what we better talk about now, is knowing when it's time to let go. You got to know when it's time to let go. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna pass the torch to Coach Tonia, because I know she gonna break it down. She gonna give y'all something to break it down to. But I see she got the grandbaby over there. But I want to say this: letting go is one of the hardest things we do, right?
Mm,
Not because we don't want, not because we don't see the truth, but because we hope it would change. Okay. But here's a powerful realization in this: some people are not rejecting you, they are rejecting who they would have to become to stay to connected, be connected to
mhm.
you. See, people don't want to know. And I said this, I made a post today. I said, you know what? Anything that's not aligned to me in this season, it can't sit at my table.
Mm.
I meant that. It's not that I think I'm perfect. It's not that it's just that my season has changed. I'm not the same woman I was 3 months ago. I'm not the same woman I was a year ago. See, I allowed myself, I made a choice. That's a difference between me and others. See, my pastor, he preached on Sunday. He said, you know what? Either you're gonna be hot or you're gonna be cold. You can't be lukewarm. We know what the Bible say about lukewarm people. Will spew you out. Spew
Mhm.
you out. So everybody have a choice. Everybody have the same choice to choose in life. Some people make other choices. I chose a different route. That has nothing to do with your worth. Because as you grow, let me tell y'all this: when you grow, that's going to create distance. I'm going to tell you that right now. So get ready for it. If you're ready for growth, growth is necessary. If you look back over your life and you see you've been in the same circle for over 20 years and you ain't moving, y'all still stuck, something has to change. And as you grow, your tolerance for dysfunction decreases. Your discernment sharpens, your conversation shift, your standards rise. So, and suddenly, let me say this, y'all: relationships that once felt familiar, they start to feel a little heavy. That doesn't mean you change for the worse. It means you change direction. I made a t-shirt. In order to get something different, you got to walk in a different direction. Walk in a different direction, you're going to get a different result. If you standing in the same spot, but you trying to expect a different result, it ain't going to work. So letting go doesn't always look loud. Letting go doesn't always involve argument, confrontation,
Mm-hmm.
conversations, y'all. Sometimes it looks like less explaining. Your silence is power.
Right.
And you choosing not to re-engage. I had a situation where, look, wait a minute, hold on, I got to tell you about this. So I made a post, right, on Threads. I didn't even know at first. I'm like, I don't even know what this. I guess it's tied to Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And the post was like, all I said was, the Bible said, "He who finds a wife,
Finds a good thing.
not she who finds a husband." Oh my gosh. Woo! Do you know the backlash? I ain't know that scripture cut a little deep for a lot of men. Man, when I tell you them trolls was on my post, I had like 20K views off of one little post. I'm like, what is going? Like they was back to back, they was coming at me, Coach Tonia. But let me tell you something. I learned that I say what I say, I mean what I say, and I let it
Mm-hmm.
go. I didn't re-engage in it. So I chose peace over there. So peace is often the confirmation that you need.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So let me say this, y'all. Releasing without resentment. You can love people, you can pray for people,
That's right.
you can wish them well, and you can still say, I can't walk with you until my next season.
Absolutely.
I mean, release doesn't mean they were bad people. It means the assignment has shifted, and my
That's
assignment
right.
has shifted in this season. And it's not that anybody that was in my last season was bad. It's just that my assignment has shifted.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Absolutely.
gonna ask anybody out there, and I'm gonna pass the torch to Coach Tonya and let her touch on this same segment we talking about. Is there anybody you've been holding on to
Mm.
out of history
Mm.
instead of alignment? Let me
Absolutely.
ask that question again. Is there anyone you've been trying to hold on to just because y'all got history? Oh, we've been friends for over 20, 30 years, but baby, what have y'all accomplished together? Is this relationship prospering?
Mm-hmm.
What is it doing? Because I feel like now I'm positioned. God removed in order to replace. He's equipping me for kingdom partnerships.
Right.
People who are on the same level as me, not saying that I'm better, but the mindset has shifted.
Absolutely.
And see, when you change this right here, you change your life. And like I said, it
Mm.
always goes back to doing the inner work. When you know the phrase say, if you want better, you do better. When you know better, you do better. However it goes, y'all know what I'm talking about. But when you stop forcing connections, you begin to see the bigger picture.
Picture.
So I'm in a season right now where this season requires people who are aligned.
Absolutely.
I'm just being honest. I love everybody, and I understand that everybody can't go. But at the end of the day, change the way you think, change
Mm-hmm.
your direction because change is necessary. If you look back over your life over 20 years, and I'm like, Lord, I look back over my life and see where I came from and see how I grow. God had to allow me to go through so many circumstances and battles to understand that everybody that was connected to me was not my assignment. No matter how I tried to force,
Mm-hmm.
I even tried to bring people back into my life from years ago, and God still removed them out the way.
Mm-hmm.
He pushed them back out over. It could have been like a small misunderstanding. I didn't even.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, God, I ain't chasing no connections. Okay, they weren't even supposed to be back in my space in the beginning. But I tried to force the connection because of the history we had.
Mm.
But God said, they still stuck. So I'm gonna have to move you. And it's
Right.
not You want to bring people with you. You want to help them, but
Mm,
they gotta want it for themselves. You can't
right.
force no. What the saying say, you can give a person water,
But you can't make it.
but you can't make them drink it. So I'm gonna pass the torch to you to touch on this statement right here. Look, well, we talking about knowing when it's time to let go. So I want you to give me your input on that, Coach Tanya.
Well, letting go is not just a mindset shift, it's also an action. That
Mm,
means it's going to require work. You
hmm.
shift in your mind, but when you shift your mind, what is the actionable steps that you're going to take
Right.
to make it take place? Because you got to start actually releasing what's holding you back. And
Hmm.
in order to start releasing it, this is your roadmap. You got to first
Hmm.
acknowledge it. What's holding you back? You got to start naming this thing. Is it anger? Did they hurt you? Resentment? What is it that's holding you back? Right? And then once you acknowledge it, you got to start accepting it for what it is. And you got to stop pretending that it didn't happen and that it didn't exist. Right? And then
Hmm.
you got to ask yourself, ask yourself sometimes, because I'm good about asking myself all the time. I question myself every single day, right?
Hmm.
What am I holding on to? And how is it hurting me? And not only that, when will I get tired of hurting?
Hmm.
That's letting it go. You got to start letting it go by acknowledging it. But you got to do the work. You can shift your mind all day, but if you don't take actionable steps to make it come to place or take
Hmm.
place, then guess what? You're gonna be still in a revolving cycle, right? Next
Hmm.
thing, when you dissect it and you analyze it and you become aware of it, then you got to start accepting the fact. You got to start
Hmm.
feeling it. I hate when people tell people, look, it's gonna get better. A lot of people say, well, God is going, and God would do what God would do, but God did not say
Hmm.
that we weren't gonna feel.
Right.
Feel it fully. Sit with your emotions. It's okay to feel how you feel. Sit with
Hmm.
your emotions without judgment, and don't let people make you feel bad by feeling how you feel. You are entitled to feel. I
Right.
always say he gave us five senses for a reason. He didn't give them
Hmm.
so we don't use them. So he gave you the opportunity to feel what you feel.
Right.
And sometimes you're gonna have to cry about it. Sometimes you may have to write it down. I like to write. So I journal my thoughts and my feelings, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes
Hmm.
you got to pray about it. And then you got to meditate about it, right? You got to talk to God, take that thing to God. But
Right.
once you start fully feeling how you feel, that allows your brain to start processing instead of storing the pain, storing the anger, storing the resentment, right? And then when you
Hmm.
feel it, here's a question I want you to start asking yourself. What emotions keep on replaying in my mind over and over again? And ask yourself, why am I letting those same things play over in my mind?
Mm.
Because you haven't taken time to feel it fully, right?
Right.
And then once you feel it, I want you to start reframing your perspective. What do I mean? You got to shift your mindset from why did this happen to me to what can I learn from what happened to me?
Mm.
When I
That's
started
good.
shifting, Lord, why they doing all of this, and start accepting people for who they are and saying, why am I so caught up in what they doing? And what can I learn from this? If they're out here stealing or robbing or killing or whatever, I don't want to be a robber or killer or a thief. What can I learn from them? Right? But we don't do that. That's reframing your perspective. And ask yourself, what lessons can I carry forward? Because I think that everybody can teach everybody something. I say that all the time.
Hmm.
I don't care where
Right.
you are in this walk of life. I don't
Hmm.
care how many degrees you got, certifications. Everybody has the ability to share something life changing that would transform and impact your life. I
Right.
say it all the time. If I was with around, I don't drink. Not because I can't, I just personally choose not to because I don't like to drink. But guess what? I can sit with a wino and I can learn so much from that wino because if
Hmm.
I decided to drink, that would be the best person for me to sit with because they can tell me what type of liquor will make me sick, what type of liquor will be good
Right.
for me, what type of wine is a good wine, which one is sweet, which one is not sweet. But because we close ourselves off from being able to listen and
Hmm.
learn from other people,
Right.
we stagnate our own growth. That's
Hmm.
shifting your perspective when it comes to people.
That's good.
Coach Lucresa is sharp, right? I know that. There's things I can learn from her. We may be on different, doing different businesses, but we're in alignment, right? There is nothing she, you know, can't tell me, right? Because I will listen, because I take everything as a learning curve. I look for the value in every conversation. What is the value? What is the value? What can I take from that conversation today to transform something in my life, or maybe share with somebody else so they can transform something in their life, right?
That's
And
good.
once you reframe your perspective, right, release control. Take back your power. Take back your control. Accept that you cannot change the things that you can't change, and be okay with the things that you can change, and focus on that. Release control and start telling yourself mentally. Say it out loud. Look yourself in the mirror. I challenge people a lot of times in my coaching. Look in the mirror and challenge yourself and say to yourself, I release this. It no longer controls me. Sometimes you have to speak life to yourself and stop waiting for people to be a beacon of light for you. God gave us the same ability. He gave us power and authority and dominion to be able to speak life into our own selves. But because we're waiting for people to speak life into us, and when they are not able to speak life, we can't function in life. But he gave you the same power and authority to be able to speak life into yourself. Because believe it or not, the ones that you're waiting for to speak life into you, they need somebody to speak life into them sometimes, right? Speak life into yourself. And once you take control back, you guys, start visualizing. Sometimes you got to see it, visualize it in your mind before it happened. We looking for all these possibilities, but if you don't believe it's possible, you can't visualize what you're looking for, what you see. You see what I'm saying? It's hard for you to let some things go. Start visualizing what your life would look like if you took back your control. How would you feel if you took back your control? What changes, what transformations would happen in your life if you actually took back your power? Took back your voice. Start standing up for yourself. Start accepting who God created you to be. Start walking in your calling. Start tapping into your assignment. Start showing up for yourself. Stop apologizing for being who you are. And start asking God to guide your footsteps, right? So that you can release and be who you want to be. Imagine how you would feel. How would you feel? And when you start gaining your control back, replace it with peace. What's going to make you happy? A lot of times we can tell everybody how to be happy, but we can't tell ourselves what it takes to make ourselves happy. You was talking about the people talking about, when you find a wife, you find a good thing. Everybody trying to tell people how to be happy, but they don't even know how to make themselves happy.
Right.
But that's a natural thing. We tell people stuff like marriage. Can't nobody tell me nothing about my marriage. You ain't married.
Right. Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? And everybody's foundation in their marriage is different.
Right.
Don't pattern your marriage behind my marriage, because what happens in my house works for us. But a lot of times, because of that mimic, everybody trying to mimic that, people can't be happy in what they have. Everything wasn't meant to be the same. If that was the case, God would have created all the same, right? And Absolutely. Just imagine what type of world that would be if all of us looked alike, act alike, smelled alike, wore our hair alike, dressed alike. That'll be a mess, right? So when you replace your peace, right, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have more energy. You're going to have more love. You're going to be able to show compassion. Your integrity level is going to go up. You're going to have more. You're going to set more expectations for yourself. You're going to have clear boundaries. You're not going to be caught up in mess. You're not going to be caught up in confusion. You're not going to sit yourself around people that can't reciprocate your behavior.
Exactly.
You're going to set clear boundaries, right? And letting go, let me tell you this. Letting go is a process.
Mm,
And we're not saying that it's going to be an overnight. Letting go is a process. This is
mm,
something that you have to work on daily. I tell people all the time, they
mm,
come in and they say, well, I want to personally develop myself within 30 days. No, and I stop them right there. When you're working on you, you're going to work on you every single day of your life.
absolutely.
Until you
Mhm,
expire, you're going to be a work in progress.
mhm,
Until you leave it, you're going to always be working on yourself. So letting go is a process, you guys. It's not a one-time event, but guess what? You can do it. And when you start being able to identify with who you are, I'm telling you, it's going to be the best feeling. Things are
mhm,
not going to bother you no more. You don't care what people think. You don't care what people say. You're not going to let people get up under your skin. You can see them doing wrong, but you're still going to treat them right because you know God going to expose their devilment. And
mhm,
guess what? When he do the exposing, you don't have to even revisit the conversation. You can walk away from it easily because
mhm.
God will protect you and he will cover you and he will show you people for who they really are.
Ooh,
And then
yes,
you're
Lord.
free. You
Mhm.
are free.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Look, that and we wrapping this thing. Ooh, Lord, that's been good. So I'm gonna say this right here, and then we gonna talk about this part because I think this piggybacks on what everything that you just said. That was real good. That was real good. Because we know that this isn't about one person, it's about all of us, right?
Absolutely.
Um this conversation is not about one misunderstanding, one relationship, one emotional moment. It's about a shared experience so many of us carry quietly, especially leaders, caregivers, visionaries, kingdom builders, emotionally intelligent people. Because we were taught to soften ourselves, make others comfortable, carry emotional weight alone. And tonight we're breaking that pattern together. So you don't need permission to be passionate, be
Mhm.
expressive, or be discerning, or be whole. You were never meant to be digestible to everybody.
Absolutely.
Your authenticity will always repel those who benefit from your silence. And just based on a kingdom perspective, Coach Tanya, just letting them know you're not called to fit in. I said that, we were set apart. You're called to stand out.
Absolutely.
You're not called to shrink. You are called to lead. Leadership often feels lonely because it feels affirmed, right?
Right.
So I have some closing declarations for y'all. And I want to invite the audience. You can say it out loud. Listen, you can write them down. You can type them out and just let yourself know that I am not too much. Look,
Right.
sometimes I have to write my declarations out and say them every day and let them
Every
know
day.
I am walking in alignment. See, whatever you speak out, life and death is in the power of the tongue. Whatever you speak out, right? The
Mhm.
universe hears it.
Absolutely.
I release what no longer serves my growth. I'm releasing anything and everything and everybody that's not serving my growth.
Mhm.
I choose peace without guilt. I'm at a peace right now. God has gave me a peace that surpasses all understanding. And anything that I say, I don't feel guilty about nothing that I'm doing. I don't feel guilty about being in
Mhm.
alignment. I don't feel guilty about growing. I don't feel guilty about expanding. I don't feel guilty about wanting better for me and my
Right.
family. I honor how God made me. So if this conversation resonated with you, I want to let y'all know that you're not alone, you're not broken, and you're not behind. Okay, you're becoming. We want to thank y'all so much for joining us live. You can share your story, speak your truth. And look, y'all, let's stop apologizing for being fully ourselves. Stop apologizing for being yourself. Coach Tony, you want to add something to it? I'm gonna let you close us out. That's all I
Look,
got.
look, you guys, this conversation has been very, very powerful. It's been very enlightening. And when we do these conversations, it helps us as well. It gives us an opportunity to share what we've experienced, right? And here's the real truth. Look, you guys, being too much is not a curse. It's
Mm-mm.
not a curse. Actually, it's a gift, right? Your
Mhm.
fire, your energy, your heart, right? That's what makes you who you are, right? So I'm encouraging all of you guys, surround yourself with people who can handle all of you, not just parts, handle all of you. And look, it's okay to release the ones that can't handle you. It's
Mm.
okay. It's not going to take away from, you being a person of compassion. It's not going to take away from that, right? It's okay. You are not cursed at all. You just have a gift. And God wants you to exercise that gift. God wants you to show up in that gift. God
Mhm.
wants you to affirm who He created you to be so that He can get the glory for what
Amen.
He affirmed you to be. But
Amen.
you can't be all that God created you to be if you emotionally hung over, caught
Mm.
up with what other people say you are,
Mm.
and leaving out what God told you in His word that you are, right? Look, you guys, this has been a great episode. And like Coach Lucretia shared, if this episode has hit home, share it with somebody, right? Someone who's ever felt, right, like, they were too much,
Mm.
they were not enough
Mm.
because people told them that they need to quiet down, dim their light,
Mm.
and shrink themselves to be accepted.
Mm.
That is
Mm.
not what God is telling you.
Mm.
I
Mm.
don't believe God told us to shine a light and shine a dim light. You see what I'm saying? You can't do both. Either
Mm.
your light is going to shine bright or your light is going to go out. So it's time for you to start shining your light, right? It's time for you to fully show up for yourself.
That's right.
Your fullness is your gift.
Mm-hmm.
That is not your burden about how people feel about you. Your fullness is your gift, not your burden. So
Mm-hmm.
look, you guys, on behalf of myself, Coach Tonia, and Coach Lucretia, look, you guys, we thank you guys for tuning into another episode of Sisters in Collaboration. Look, where we believe in staying raw, we stay real, and we are never gonna dim our light for anyone,
What
right?
that song say? Don't let your light burn low. You can sing the old hymn. Don't let
Woo!
your light burn low. Y'all better keep that oil
You
up
better
in
keep that
the
light going. Look, you guys, until next time, be blessed, not oppressed, and not depressed.
Amen.
Show up fully, boldly, confidently in who God created you to be.
Mm-hmm.
And detach yourself from other people's drunkenness, please. Look, it's time for you guys to sober up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it takes to get you sober, we want you guys to walk in sobriety. Look, you
Amen.
guys, y'all have a good evening. We'll talk to you again on the next episode of Sisters in Collaboration. Y'all have a good